just got some absolutely massive news from the Trump administration, and as a little bit of a spoiler here, if you're a fan of activating the nuclear option in the Senate, or if you're a fan of mass deportations, you should probably stick around for today's entire video. Now, as you might have noticed, President Trump and the Senate Republicans just successfully navigated this country out of the single longest government shutdown in all of United States history. But before we celebrate too much, there's something that we need to quickly acknowledge here. You see, the budgetary continuing resolution that they just passed putting an end to the shutdown only keeps the government open until January 30th, 2026, right around 2.5 months from now. At which point, unless some sort of deal is struck with the Senate Democrats again, then we'll very likely find ourselves in yet another government shutdown. Which is why Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just had this to say late last night. Take a look.
I'm 100% with the president. The Senate should go straight and forget the filibuster, and Republicans should vote to fund the government without the Democrats.
Wow.
I'm very happy to see 8 brave Democrats came across, but this economic damage is unacceptable. They call it self-harm. They were willing to harm the economy of the United States to benefit a party in chaos.
Yeah. Well, they want to have chaos in President Trump's term.
And so, folks, that's absolutely right. The Democrats have pretty much lost control of every single lever of power within the country because we all voted them out, by the way. And so now they're just trying to crash the economy in order to undermine President Trump's America First agenda. Luckily, though, as things currently seem, the Trump administration actually has some pretty high expectations going into 2026. Take a look.
I think we are going to see a substantial acceleration in the economy in the second quarter, and I think we are also we're already seeing on many prices. As I said, we're bending that curve down, and the increase in real incomes. I think Americans are going to feel it in the first quarter, second quarter. I think 2026. Okay. Thanks to President Trump's signature plans, is going to be a great year for working Americans, for the markets. I call it parallel prosperity. Main Street and Wall Street can both do great, but I think Main Street's going to have a great year in 2026.
And so really, that's what it's all about. Sure, that's great if the stock market is setting a bunch of record highs, which it has been, but the fact of the matter is that most people don't really own stocks, and even if they do, we still need to keep prices low and make sure that basic necessities are affordable for everyday Americans. But now, folks, on that note, I want to go ahead and introduce all of you to one of President Trump's key economic plans to keep things affordable: mass deportations. Take a look.
I believe a significant amount of the inflation that we experienced in recent years is because we threw millions of new people into the country without a sufficient expansion of the housing stock and a sufficient expansion of other forms of fixed capital. Right? The truth is that they need to live somewhere. And if they're living somewhere, then that's a place that other people in America are not living. And so that's a problem. And that was inflationary. And I think that the change in border policy, cutting down net migration to zero, potentially even negative because the deportations that have been occurring, I think is very disinflationary because it's the exact opposite of what occurred over the last few years.
And so, folks, when you stop and think about it, really, this is just common sense. Every single one of the 25 million illegal aliens that entered this country during the Biden era has been taking up space and consuming resources. They've been driving up housing and rental prices. They've been consuming food and driving up food costs, everything, all of it. And luckily now, we actually have the economic data to prove beyond any reasonable doubt just how much of an economic drain all of these illegal aliens have really been. In fact, all of these illegal aliens flooding into the country is actually one of the primary reasons why we saw inflation get so astronomically high during the Biden era. Because once again, every single illegal alien is effectively competing with you for resources, whether it's housing, food, or a job. And the process of taking in over 5 million illegal aliens per year disastrously shocked our economy so much that inflation just absolutely skyrocketed. And now that all of these illegal aliens are starting to get deported, we're actually seeing inflation come down and prices are beginning to stabilize. Now, Trump's Economic Council Director, Kevin Hassett, actually gave his thoughts on all of this just earlier today, so I want all of you to take a look at that. But
if
first,
you look at the history of inflation, right, what happened was that there was runaway Democrat spending in Joe Biden's term, and we got inflation up almost to 10%. It averaged 5% over the 4 years. And that has created a situation where, for example, mortgage rates went up. And so the typical payment for a monthly mortgage payment almost doubled. A bag of groceries that cost $400 a month when President Trump left office is $500 or $515 when President Trump came back this time. And so that there's this really big hole that's been dug. And then the question you could also ask as an economist is, like, how do I summarize all those different prices and everything? And one of the ways you could do it is just look at purchasing power, the real wage. But purchasing power, I'll just finish this and then I'll get back to it. The purchasing power dropped by about $3,000 under Joe Biden because the wages didn't keep up with prices. Under President Trump, it's already gone up by about $1,200. We understand that people still feel the pain of the high prices, but we're closing the gap and filling the gap fast.
I don't want to get into.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, here's the reality of this entire situation. Joe Biden and the Democrats really did cause an absolutely disgusting amount of damage to the American economy. But just 10 months into President Trump's second term, that's where we are right now. A lot of that damage is finally starting to be undone. In fact, Vice President J.D. Vance actually just spoke on all of this just the other day. Take a look.
I know that there are a lot of people out there, Sean, who are saying things are expensive. And we have to remember they're expensive because we inherited this terrible inflation crisis from the Biden administration. But you've already seen signs that things are getting better. The price of eggs has gone way down. The price of energy has gone way down. The price of gasoline has gone way down. And as we know, when the price of energy goes down, that starts to filter out into the entire economy, but that also takes a little bit of time. There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had. So what we're doing is trying to make it easier to build houses, trying to make it easier to build factories and things like that so that people have good jobs. We're also getting all of those illegal aliens out of our country, and you're already seeing it start to pay some dividends.
But now, folks, here's an excellent question. Since Trump stepped back into the White House, just how many illegal aliens have we really been able to get rid of so far? Well, take a look at this.
When you talk about people that have left this country using the CBP Home app, those who voluntarily left, those that we have actively detained and deported, that number is over 2 million people since the Trump administration has come into the White House. That is an incredible, record-shattering number of individuals who were here illegally that are now gone. And when you think about the ripple effects of that, the amount of resources that frees up to focus on the American citizens, it's remarkable the good work that President Trump has been able to do. I would say that by the end of this year, those individuals who have been detained or arrested and deported will be over 600 to 650,000, and then we include many more that are still voluntarily going home on their own as well.
And so, folks, did you really catch all of that? In just the last 10 months alone, over 2 million illegal aliens have self-deported, and another 650,000 illegal aliens have been forcibly deported. And now, of course, there's still a lot of work to be done here, but I think we all have to acknowledge, we have to agree that deporting somewhere around 2.7 million illegal aliens per year is a pretty massive accomplishment. And you know what? Thank God for that, because these mass deportations really do need to continue on if we not only want to save the U.S. economy, but also if we really want to put America first.